Hey everybody, ChristopherOdd here. I have a very special guest with me. His name is Joel Nielsen. He is the audio lead for Black Mesa. So if you don't mind, Joel, can you maybe tell everybody a little bit about yourself? What got you into music?
Yeah, that's a pretty heavy question. I don't know. I guess I got into music back when I was a little kid, partially forced into it by parents. You know how the whole music lesson thing goes. And yeah, around, I don't know, I guess I was around 12-ish, and I basically took the Royal Conservatory of Music all the way till, I guess it would be grade 9, and then graduated from that, and then I was kind of done with the whole classical music thing and just kind of started messing around with my own music, and at the same time got into using sequencers and recording my own stuff, and just kind of developed it from there. And yeah, it's kind of the long and short of that.
No, I mean, that's really cool. So you obviously have like the classical training in a sense. You learn how to read music and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all the fun stuff that everybody hates.
Well, I mean, it shows though in what you've created with Black Mesa. Can you tell us a little bit about how what you did learn from a classical perspective was able to influence your outcome with Black Mesa?
Yeah, like I think most people probably listening to the soundtrack, you'd probably hear the songs that have the classical bits in it. And it was kind of like going into this when I first made it onto the team. I kind of wanted to put a little bit of kind of class in it, because, you know, like prior to that, Half-Life, it consists mostly of techno and everything else like that. And that's not that that's bad or anything, but you know, I wanted to infuse a little bit, but without getting into kind of movie score stuff, because then a lot of the movie score stuff is fairly cliche as well. So you know, there's a couple tracks, and you know, some people like those tracks and other people hate them. So it was a gamble that I don't know if it necessarily worked as well as it was planned to, but at the same time, like the theme, which is probably one of the most favorite songs for most people, that's a fairly, you know, it's reasonably classical. There's a little bit of it in there, so
right.
Yeah.
So that brings up an interesting point. You mentioned that some people are really happy with the way that you represented it. Some people, obviously, the hardcore community maybe wanted it a little bit more traditional. But somebody on Reddit actually asked a really good question. His name was Vocatus, and he goes, did you ever feel nervous knowing that you were putting your own personal touch on tracks considered to be a classic by a big amount of the gaming community?
Oh yeah. It was a gamble. I even had people on the team that were like, you know, you realize that you could just get knifed in a back alley for doing what you're doing with the music, and I was like, yeah, I guess it's a risk I'll have to take, you know. Like I did want to do something different. I think there's enough throwback elements in it that I probably won't get knifed, but yeah, you know, I didn't want to do the exact same thing as the original. Like the original soundtrack's out there still, and it's very easy to put in our game if that's the way you want it. And so, you know, it was kind of a chance to do something new and different, and just see, you know, kind of push the envelope a bit as far as the Half-Life music is concerned, I guess. Like, not saying that what I did was, you know, far amazing beyond what Kelly Bailey did, but it is definitely from a different perspective for sure.
Well, as a music fan in general, and as a new Half-Life fan, I gotta say, your music really hit home for me personally, and I know a ton of other people that are incredibly happy with it. So, I mean, you're not going to get any knives coming from us.
Yeah, that's good.
So, along those same lines, what is the process like for you creatively when you're trying to capture the original feel from Half-Life, but still kind of freshen it up and make it something completely new?
Well, a lot of it was definitely playing the old games. Like, I think, like, as soon as I got into the team, I played the original Half-Life probably 2 to 3 times through front to back, just to get it like really in my head. And again, listening to the music and the sound and all that stuff, kind of sucking it all in. And then same with Half-Life 2, I went through and played Half-Life 2, and at the time, I think episode 1 may have just been coming out, so I probably went into that too, because the goal was, although to, you know, we're creating Half-Life 1, but the goal was to make it so you could flawlessly kind of jump into Half-Life 2 from our game, and it wouldn't seem like it was like this different, completely different experience. So
right.
like goal wise, I kind of was pushing toward Half-Life 2 a little bit more maybe than Half-Life 1. And some people might really disagree with that, but for the most part, it's just to kind of, I don't see a lot of people playing Black Mesa and then being like, oh, now I'm going to play Half-Life 1 right after, and then being, oh, it doesn't blend. But yeah, I can see a lot of people playing Black Mesa and then wanting to keep going into Half-Life 2 and Episode 1. And so I wanted that to be a little similar, it's not directly compared to Half-Life 2, there is quite a few differences. But I probably use Half-Life 2 the most for a lot of the influence and for kind of getting the style and the feel down. And then I would play the game a bit, and then I would jump into my sequencers and I'd play around on my keyboards and stuff like that, and just kind of find lines that seem to kind of, for the most part, if I could probably get away with putting it in Half-Life 2, it was a reasonably decent start for Black Mesa, and that's kind of what it, how it ended up.
For sure. You mentioned that you were working on this before Episode 1 came out, is what you're saying.
I'm trying to remember, what was the exact year Episode 1? It was 2006, right?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah, I joined the team in June 2005.
Okay.
Yep.
So how did you get involved with the team? Was it something you found and you were interested in, you applied for? Did they recruit you? How did that work?
Yeah, I like most people, there was a couple screenshots that had popped up on the internet that just the really early stuff, and I immediately was like, oh my gosh, someone's remaking Half-Life 1, this is gonna be awesome. And then seeing the screenshots, like everyone was back in about 2004-ish when the very first ones came out, everyone's mind was like blown, and you're just like, wow, this is a mod. It looked better than every game that came out at the time. And so I was just like, man, that would be really cool to be a part of. And so, I think it might have been a couple months later after the second batch of screenshots came out, I went to their website and was like, oh, they don't have an audio guy. And so I was like, at that point, I'd actually done up a demo to try to get a real job at a real studio. And I never really had any hits at all from it. And, I was like, whatever. But so, yeah, I decided just to apply for Black Mesa and sent in the same demo to them that I sent basically to everybody else. And they liked it and were like, yeah, it would be great to have someone on the team. So I joined and the rest, I guess, is history.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I mean, I think that goes a long way for putting yourself out there and having somebody appreciate that talent and say, not only, hey, good job, but, we want you as part of this major project.
Yeah.
So speaking of some of the early days, from what I understand, there was this leaked video from the On a Rail chapter. And somebody on Reddit, his name is Zero Cracked. It's a great username, by the way. He wants to know, why exactly did you end up replacing the music from that leaked video?
In my opinion, it was always one of the weakest tracks in the music, and because the game was delayed and it kept being delayed, I actually had a really good opportunity to kind of touch up stuff that I didn't really like and to even redo some songs. Because like most of the music, even when we put out the 2009 trailer that we completely didn't hit at all, that had the 2009 release on it, most of the soundtrack was actually done. There was just kind of minor stuff left. But then after we didn't hit that, and then it looked like it was going to be at least a year, I was just kind of like, well, I'm not just going to sit on my hands for the next year. I'm going to start going through this and, just changing stuff that I don't like and making it, hopefully better. And that was one of the songs that it was written pretty early on, like probably about 2006, and it just kind of kept getting pushed through. And, I kind of always had meant to, maybe redo it or maybe make it a bit more interesting. And then it was it'd be about 2010. I was just like in the middle of kind of tweaking some other tracks, and then and basically mixed together a bunch of the kits from the first On a Rail track and kind of decided to make that into a bit of a electronica song, because there really wasn't a lot of electronic. It was either rock or ambient, and so I was kind of like, I still might get knifed for not having techno. So I should probably at least, even though it's not techno, I should probably get something where it's like, there's no actual real instrumentation. It's just all fake, digital stuff. So
right, yeah, for sure.
And yeah, like even a lot of the other songs like QE1, which has been a pretty big hit, and Blast Pit 3,
right,
and a lot of the rock stuff actually received some pretty significant facelifts over that time period, which actually really was good for the soundtrack, because it, just like simply maturing and getting older, you kind of get a little better at doing what you're doing, which hopefully you would, but
yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah, and so I think it was overall good. It would have been nice to have it out in 2009, but it definitely would have been a much rougher product for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's really interesting to know that it's been quote unquote finished for so long, but you've just really been able to go back and I guess how I would describe it is refine everything.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite song? Is there one that really sticks out to you as something you're extremely proud of?
I don't know. It's probably Pompous. I'm pretty happy with the whole soundtrack. A lot of people that make music, they're kind of like, oh, I don't really listen to my own stuff. I don't really like it. Yeah. I'm probably a little different than that. I actually kind of do like the music that I make, and I get a kick out of it. Like, that being said, I'm sick of the Black Mesa soundtrack for sure, because I've heard it so many times. But yeah, like for the most part, I would actually, the best way to probably answer that would be while making the soundtrack, the songs that really kind of hit home, like right when I created them, like FAF really stood out. The Forget About Freeman, I was just like, man, this is kind of cool on its own. Yeah. And I like that. There's a couple good lines. Like, there's parts in it that could use some tweaking still, but and then QE1 was definitely a fun song to write, but that song changed so significantly. Like, I've got versions that are 5 years that people wouldn't even recognize if I played it, but even though it is technically the same song. But yeah, I don't know. There's a couple of those. Like the theme definitely too was one that when I first composed it, I kind of was like, hey, this is kind of cool. There definitely was something to that song that was a little special. And like, for the most part, I don't even like to take credit. I think it's more of just kind of a fluke in composition. It's just, I'm messing around on a piano until I kind of find a melody or, something that sounds good together. And then it's just, accidental almost, I guess. I don't know. That's probably makes me sound really horrible as a composer, but whatever.
Well, I think a lot of people would be surprised at how often that's the case with music.
Yeah.
You stumble upon something accidentally and it sounds good, and you build from there,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When you're creating these individual tracks, are you visualizing what's happening in the game, or are you making it fit after the fact?
That would definitely depend on the track. I would say probably 60 or 70% of the tracks were specifically designed for where they are. And most of them are the ones that everyone is like, oh, that's the stuff that really fits good in the game and stuff. And then the other ones, there's definitely a couple where I was going for something thematically and it just really didn't end up working. Whether or not it was due to just not having an epic enough, scene at that point or whatever. Like for sure, Blast Pit 3 comes to mind, and a lot of people probably, there's people that really love it, but those are the people that play it the way that I kind of composed it to be played. But the game actually encourages you to play it differently, and then you get kind of a clash, and and it doesn't necessarily work. But yeah, and that's one of the things that we're going to try to fix here in some of the updates for Black Mesa, is to try to encourage people that when you get back to that silo the last time, that you're now running to the top, and you're
right,
and it's chaotic, and then thus it would fit the music, and it was all designed around that you hit the button right when the music changes from hard to soft. And you'll notice that if you do run, it's actually really easy to time the music to it, because that was one thing that I spent a long time on playing over and over, was getting that timing down, and that's why the music starts in a very specific spot too. It kind of starts back in that airlock, and that's all just timing, so that because again, we can't dictate how the player plays, but we can encourage it. And And like for some people, like just letting the music kind of control you a bit, you know, like move your adrenaline and whatnot. That's like, it's definitely something. Some people are just, you know, they naturally play a game to the music, and then there's other people that just kind of like to forget the music's even there and just play the game they want. But there are spots where you're it works the best if you play with the music or play to the music. So like we've got Hostiles. The top side is a perfect example of if you play that to the music, you can actually kind of end up with what would look like you like pre-planned it all, and it's like a whole movie-esque thing. And it's something I've actually wanted to take a couple YouTube videos of, just to kind of show, you know, like how it does fit together, like if you play to the music. I'm not sure if this is making sense, but
no, it's totally making sense. And what's really intriguing to me is that you guys are a small team of how many people?
Well, active members probably around 20-ish.
Okay, so 20 people working on this mod, and I even feel bad calling it a mod, because this is the amount of work that you guys put into this is incredible. And just hearing you talk about all the little intricacies about how you're timing the music to the player and trying to influence them to do certain things without forcing them. Yeah, I mean, that's amazing.